my history as a Master TFT player, highlights and issues with set 7, thoughts on 2-space unit, 7 to 10 gold costs, too many mechanics, and more, all covered in this video. Let's go. So getting right into it, I'm a very passionate TFT player. However, sometimes sets just don't resonate with me and then I just don't feel like playing. And I can tell pretty quickly after about 4 or 5 games if I'm gonna like a set or not. So to give you a brief history of my ranked TFT journey, in set 1 before, well, any of us knew what we were doing, I climbed all the way to Diamond, and at one point I was in like the top 500 players because it was the start of the ranked ladder and I was trying to get to the top 100, but I had to go away for 2 days, and then by the time I got back, I was in the top 1000 and I just pretty much gave up from there. I was mostly playing some variation of Elementalist, Rangers, Glacial, pretty much every game. It never really got nerfed enough where it wasn't good, so I think that if I had just kept grinding, I think I would have gotten to the top 100, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. I basically settled around Plat 1 to Diamond for the rest of the season, and then when Season 2 came along, or Set 2 I should say, I just kind of... I think at that time I was expecting it to be so similar to Set 1 that it just didn't interest me, but then I realized what auto chess games really had to offer, and that variation is something that I actually came to like later. It really keeps the game fresh as we switch things up, but we all know that. However, it did stop me from playing for a while, and then life got busy, and then I kind of got back to TFT a couple different times for a few games. When the Star Guardians came, I tried it, and another couple times, and it just... I never really had the time to dedicate to ranked. So fast forward years later, I really wanted to try TFT again, and I had just gotten an iPad. I realized that you could get TFT on mobile, and that was a game changer because I didn't have to be chained to my computer in order to play. So I picked it back up right at the end of set 5.5, and I started playing ranked right away, and I started climbing really quickly again. I got into Platinum, and then the season ended as soon as I hit Plat, so I didn't have a ton of time, but already I knew that I really liked the game again, and set 5.5 in my opinion was actually pretty fun, even though it's pretty low ranked by a lot of other people. However, when set 6 came along, that is when I really hit my stride. I love the set, and I'm going to go into more why in just a little bit, but basically I was playing all the time, and I played and played and played, and then I finally hit Diamond. So I was back to my peak rank, which I felt really great about. I climbed all the way up to the top of Diamond, and I think I was at 99 LP, and then I dropped all the way back down to Diamond 4. I was really frustrated because I thought I was going to hit Master, and then I was basically starting from the bottom of Diamond again. Then I read this really, really good Twitter thread that basically explained why you're not Master if you weren't Master and what you could do to get there. Most of these things I thought I was doing, most of them I was doing, and then the ones where I was inconsistent on, that's where I was realizing that's the gap in my game. So anyways, I followed that Twitter thread to a T, and I made it all the way to Master. I was super stoked, super proud of myself. It's really true, once you're high Diamond or Master, because you've played enough and you really understand the mechanics of the game, you can really see when they do the patch notes, the changes they make, why they're making them. And I think for me, that is when I really solidified myself as somebody that understood this game, and in turn, I kind of understand what makes good changes, bad changes, good sets, and bad sets. So before I go into my analysis of set 7 and 7.5, I'm going to tell you why I really liked set 6, particularly the first half of set 6. 6.5 I didn't play a ton of, partially because I didn't have a lot of time, and partially because I loved set 6 so much. The comps were different enough where I just kind of felt like, oh, it's not as satisfying as the comps I loved, so I think I'll just wait till set 7, which ended up backfiring on me. So the reason I loved set 6 so much is A, the augment mechanic became part of the game, which I think is one of the best changes, because sometimes it allows sets that won't really thrive without the augments to actually have a chance. And I think we saw that when the enchanters and scholars emblems became augments, and then those comps could actually be very strong, and yes, the game had to balance around them, but you would never really get that good of a scholar or enchanter comp without an emblem, because you most times will put it on a champ that could really be a scholar or an enchanter. And that to me made the game more fun, because a lot of the champs that were fun to play, you could suddenly weave into a comp and you could create some pretty unique team composition. The other thing I really liked about set 6 is there were so many comps I really liked playing. A lot of times I tend to go towards rangers, snipers, cannoneers with a really strong front line, but in this set there were so many fun comps that worked well and kept getting nerfed and buffed that I truly enjoyed playing them all. I played a ton of Syndicate with Assassins, that was my main go-to. I played Innovator a ton, I played Academy with Yone and Fiora carries. There were so many different carries that I really liked, and as the set progressed, of course, the balance changed, and then I had to kind of adapt to new comps, but because they were all so fun, I never got frustrated or bored with the game. And then kind of a sub point on that, I found that the 4 costs were all really interesting in the first half of set 6, and then the 5 costs were all amazing. You could really fit them into most comps, and I enjoyed playing around all of them. I love playing Jinx, Akali, Jace, Kai'Sa, Tom Kench. All of them were so great to play. Victor even at times. I really enjoyed getting to the stage where you actually got 5 costs, whereas some sets I find that you're at the 5 costs, but they're just kind of, even if they're strong, they're just not that impactful or really even that interesting, so it was kind of just like, ugh, there's an expensive unit I might have to buy. One thing that I also think made set 6 really special for me is they did a good job of encapsulating the theme and the playstyle of the champions within the set. So for example, Seraphine, she had an amazing ability, and it really gave you the fantasy of what Seraphine is as a champ. Even though I know she's so hated, I picked her up in regular league right after playing this set, and I actually really enjoyed her, whereas before this set, and I had played her a few times, I absolutely despised the champ. Same with Kai'Sa. I worked her into so many different champs, whether it was challengers, mutants, made her into a syndicate assassin. There were so many times that I used Kai'Sa in this set, and I ended up picking up the champion in regular league, and she's now my highest mastery champ that I own, because I just loved that feel of her in TFT, so then I wanted to use that skill expression elsewhere in regular Summoner's Rift. I think the thing that really set 6 nailed was they didn't overcomplicate the mechanics within the classes and the team compositions. Innovators, for example, it has 3 levels. It has the crab, the bear, and the dragon. I felt it was really interesting to chase all 3 stages of that, but it was pretty simple to understand. Same with syndicates. It was pretty easy to understand. As you got more syndicates, you got more stats, and it affected more of your team, and you could really play around that quite simply. Even with mutants, how the synergy changed game to game, it was 5 pretty straightforward synergies, and once you knew what it was in the game, you kind of knew what to expect. Where set 7 lost me a little bit is it seemed like all of the classes and the team compositions, they all had some sort of extra mechanic added to them, and some of them are fun, some of them are interesting, but a lot of them are not, and then for me, I just don't want to learn them. Yes, if you're a high-level TFT player, you can really work your way through all of the compositions. You can learn based on your past experience. It should be a no-brainer, but I'm looking at this from a lens of the average player. Picking up all these mechanics is probably pretty tough. And then even as a higher elo player, I do like variation. I do like a challenge, but I want it to make sense, and I want it to still be very enjoyable as I play, because the one big difference between TFT and Summoner's Rift that I really enjoy is that It is still a high stakes feeling game, but there's a level of calmness to it. I don't know if I can explain it exactly. You can actually take your time and just kind of enjoy the game instead of being stressed every single second. Farming, pushing towers, objectives, macro, micro. One thing I really didn't like about set 6 was the 2 space units. For some reason, that's just not something I enjoy, and in set 7 they really doubled down on it. Not only were most of the carries 2 space units, they're also not even League of Legends champions, which is something that I know that it's nice for them to be able to innovate. I like having the League of Legends champions because it's just one less thing to learn about the set when you know roughly what the champion's going to do or what their potential playstyle or ability is going to be. On top of that, they also increased the gold, which I think makes sense for the 2 space units, but I just wish that none of it existed. If anything, I wish that they would have 6 cost units all around and add one more tier to the game, and it could be that ultimate late game chase that you may or may not hit, and it's almost expected that you don't hit. However, that also comes with some challenges because how do you balance around it if nobody's ever going to hit it? So maybe it's just fine the way it is with 1 through 5 cost units. I do think that some of the mechanics and clunkiness did get worked out in this set, and I have to give props to the TFT team, period, because I think they do an amazing job of keeping things fresh and trying to innovate, trying to do better every single set to keep the play experience enjoyable. So I do want to give them credit for that. And I know some people really give them a hard time like basically whatever happens, they give them a hard time. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Some of my highlights from this B set especially is I really did like the whole dark flight mechanics. I really liked the Lagoon mechanics. As you can see, I'm playing it in my current game, and I actually really do enjoy this econ mechanic. It feels like just enough risk and reward where it's not like you have to win that one round to cash out, but at the same time, and as you can see, like my front line isn't great, you really have to use your econ to do some damage and really build strategically and intelligently. I also like the shimmer scale trait. That was something that was kind of unique and different. It wasn't too complicated and it felt really satisfying. I think as we move towards set 8, what I'm really going to be looking for is for there to be a really interesting mechanic to the game, whether it's something as big as augments that completely adds on to the game or changes it in an interesting way. But I don't think we need radiant items and augments and something else and something else. I want it to focus on 1 or 2 core things, but then really make the set about them. So you have to learn and adapt, but then once you've got them, you can start experimenting with comps. I really hope we go back to the majority, if not all, of the characters in TFT being back to League champs, even if it means we do have some reprints. I don't really mind. I think the ones that work really well, let's bring them back. I think that the TFT team has proved that they're creative, and I think that we can see them reimagine some of these champs in maybe a different cost class or maybe a different ability. I also hope that we finally get to see Rammus. I feel like they're trolling us at this point, but bring Rammus in and make him a 5 cost. Let's show him off to the world as the most broken TFT unit of all time. I also hope that they can really nail down a bunch of comps that are fun to play and ones that you'll like rotating through. And I know that that might be this set for people, and maybe I'm just really picky, and set 6 was just the one that I found the most comps enjoyable, but I just felt like there were some really cool builds, even like the ice cream cone build. I am an ice cream build enjoyer. I actually tried in 7.0 to make another ice cream build. That's part of the reason I kind of got irritated, is because I tried it with Sona and some other units, but the synergies just didn't quite mix. There wasn't enough frontline, there wasn't enough CC, there wasn't enough damage, and but if we got something like the Enchanter Scholars again, I think that would be so much fun. I think that if this next set can really execute on a new fantasy for the set, some really cool mechanics, you know, maybe even getting rid of augments for a while and then bringing them back. Like, I hope they don't go for good, because I really do think they add a lot to the game, but maybe if they remove that and add something else in for at least one set, I think that would make it really fresh. And I think that if the champion abilities, the team comps, and the mechanics of the game are really solid, I can see myself jumping back in next set and going full out and trying to get Master or maybe even Grandmaster this time. I really want to know your thoughts in the comments. Did you like this set? And specifically, did you like the whole dragons, 2 spaces, additional gold to spend on them? What was your vibe on that? Maybe units that take up 2 or even 3 spaces is going to be the future of TFT, but I kind of hope that was a mechanic they tried out for 6 and 7, and then they scrap it for 8. That is going to wrap up the video for today. Thanks for staying with me. I hope you found this enjoyable. This probably could have been 2 or 3 different videos, but I kind of ended up compiling all my thoughts in one place. I might post some more gameplay later as I explore the rest of set 7.5, so stay tuned for that. Let me know your thoughts on basically whatever I covered in this video. Thanks for watching.